Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tom Bechdel. I'm here from Meadville. I'm here to inform you and educate you on the eastern coyote. He is an unwanted neighbor in most cases, and most people are now finding out what I've been saying for 25 years. He's a problem child. How many people have actually seen a coyote? That's a good number of hands up there. How many have lost a pet or livestock to a coyote? Couple. So let's get started. The eastern coyote is easily identified. Elongated snout, pointed ears like a fox, long bushy tail if he's healthy. But that's what most people know. They don't know anything past that. Most wolves, foxes, and most domestic pets have the same characteristic. From the top of the back to the bottom of the brisket is the same length as the legs underneath. Whereas a coyote, the legs are 2 times longer than what the body is in depth. In other words, a teenager, all legs, no body yet. That's the quickest way I can tell you to identify. There are 19 subspecies of coyotes across the United States. The eastern coyote, which we're going to talk about, is the largest. Now, to give you an example, I brought a western coyote. It's been on a slim fast diet too long, but this is a western coyote. By seeing this coyote, you have seen every coyote out west. A shade lighter or a shade darker, maybe. But this is a western coyote. The female out west will weigh 15 to 25 pounds on average. The male will weigh anywhere from 25 to 35 pounds. If you would kill a 40-pound coyote out west, you're going to be in every news media. Reason being, they don't get that large. With 7 to 21 dogs per square mile and food and water at a premium, the western coyote does not get very large. So that's our reference, where we're going to start from. Whereas the eastern coyote is slightly larger. This coyote, for instance, was a female and she weighed 38 pounds. The eastern coyote female can weigh anywhere from 35 to 50 pounds in weight. The male, on the other hand, can weigh anywhere from 45 to 65 pounds. The largest coyote I ever harvested here in Pennsylvania weighed 73 pounds. That's a good-sized dog, is it not? The largest coyote that I ever harvested, the good Lord gave me a different method of doing it. He allowed me to use my vehicle. I harvested that one in Ohio. It is now the largest coyote ever recorded in the United States. Through blood testing, it came back strictly coyote. No other species found. It weighed 82 pounds. That was a big dog, folks. The other thing I want you to notice, that doesn't look like the western coyote, does it? A different coloration. There are 7 distinct colorations of this eastern coyote. Black, white, brown, Irish setter red, red like a red fox, and then colors off of that. The most common is what I call the German Shepherd. Either red with black tip or gray with black tip. But some of you folks really get tied up in the colors, so I brought a couple that you might want to take a look at. This was a white coyote. Had you seen this along the road or out in the field, wouldn't you take this particular animal, somebody's German Shepherd running loose? But that was a coyote. A pretty coyote, but nonetheless a coyote. And then we get into what I call the problem child coyote, the darker ones. This black coyote seems to have the most instinctive will to live. He has a way of staying out of trouble more than the rest of them do. You may not have harvested this animal because he has a white patch on his throat, just like most pets do. Remember what I said about the characteristics of what makes a coyote different from a fox or a wolf. So, let's go over some real cute things here. From the base of his feet to the top of his back is normally 24 to 30 inches. That's a pretty good sized dog. From tip of nose to the tip of tail, anywhere from 46 to 66 inches in length. That's a fair-sized dog, is it not? Colorations we talked about. Understand, it doesn't matter what the coloration of this animal is, because I shot some that have been just absolutely bizarre in color. The characteristics will tell you what you're looking at. His defenses, what keeps him alive, his ears. It is a proven fact, the university and game biologists report, this coyote can hear a mouse chewing grass 60 feet away. That's 20 yards. That mouse stopped chewing grass, that coyote will walk over and pick that up. For somebody who can't hear a cell phone or an ex-wife, I can't comprehend that kind of hearing. That's unreal, is it not? But that's his weakest defense. His eyesight. How many turkey hunters do I have here? They kind of hard to move on? Need to wear camo? It is a proven fact, and I'd love to have been there when they did the study on this, that his vision is 15 to 20 times greater than the eastern wild turkey. That means by putting my hand to my nose and putting my hand back down, a coyote can see that from 250 yards and never strain his eyesight. And I can't even read a phone directory anymore without glasses on. But that's only his second best. His best leads him through the woods, his nose. It is a proven fact through university game biologist reports, this coyote can smell a single drop of blood 7.5 miles away. There's only one animal can do better than that. That's the Alaskan brown bear. He can smell that same drop of blood at 11.5 miles away. The reason most coyotes are not harvested by hunters is strictly human scent. We're not cautious of it. Let's go over 12 months of his life. Tell you what he does, what he doesn't do to get rid of some of the myths. December, January, the cold months. Coyotes pack up and lose family units, usually 3 to 5 dogs. The more severe the weather, deeper the snow, more ice there is, whatever, they have a tendency to pack up. Normally 3 to 5 dogs. But when the weather turns nasty, they can pack up in large groups. The largest I ever witnessed was down below Cockerton, Pennsylvania. It had between 25 and 30 dogs in that group. That's when they do damage to livestock and when they do damage to our deer herd. Then comes February. That's when most of you actually get to hear a coyote. That's the mating season. That's when this coyote will walk out on a point of a mountain, up on a rock knoll somewhere, and he'll just lean back and speak. Any female coyote that likes the sound of his voice and is receptive will come and they'll be together for the rest of the year. See how easy that was? There's no candy. There's no flowers. There's no long engagements. You want a date, get a howler, get in the backyard. It works for nature, it'll work for you. You guys waste way too much money. But things change from that point in a coyote's life. The female is now in that motherly way. She takes the remote. She says, you did it, you caused it, you take care of it. You understand that? Don't cry. It was a joke. The male coyote from mid-February through August is a killing machine. He is killing not only for himself, but for his mate. Now, to tell you exactly how much he kills, I'm going to embarrass a couple people. Did they warn you about that? When you're my audience, you're part of the program. Anybody tell you that? It's too late. You're done. How much you weigh, young man?
250.
Could you eat 250 pounds of food this week?
No.
Thank you. I never ask teenagers that because they know they can. If you were a coyote, you would have to eat your own body weight once every week just to maintain that weight. Just to maintain it. Let's take a 40-pound coyote. He's going to eat roughly 40 pounds of food this week. A raccoon, a fawn, a cat, you know, the other white meat. Yeah. But he's going to eat roughly 40 pounds of food this week. There are 52 weeks to a year. That's 2,080 pounds of wildlife one coyote is eating. Whoa. They live 6 to 12 years in the wild. Taking the minimum of 6 years, that's 12,480 pounds of wildlife one coyote is eating. And I am positive there's more than one coyote in Pennsylvania. So where you think hunters have over-hunted, doe permits have been given out too strong, I bet if you really look, you're going to find that the tracks of this guy's all over the place. He's eating what you couldn't get to. He doesn't care if they're healthy. He doesn't care if they're sick. If he can catch it, he's going to eat it. So this male coyote is out feeding his female every day. And her being in a motherly way, she's starting to put on weight. So every day, he's bringing back more and more. To make matters worse, somewhere around the end of March, beginning of April, 6 to 10 pups are born. That's a normal litter. The largest litter ever found in the wild was up in Massachusetts. It had 17 pups in that litter. And I guarantee that boy's reading a book on bachelorhood. That had to be a lot of work. That had to be a lot of work. Not only are 6 to 10 pups born, now she got to produce more milk to feed those pups. And every day the pups are growing, she needs to produce more. So does the male. Make matters worse, somewhere at the end of May, beginning of June, they're weaned. That's when they go from the liquid diet to solid diet. Now he's killing for her, for him, and every one of the pups. And the pups are growing every day. Can you see where I'm going with this? Somewhere around mid-August, the pups weigh somewhere around 40 pounds. It does not take long for these things to overrun an area. That make sense to you? The female picks out a den site. The den site you are thinking about can be a hole in the ground. Doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be an old abandoned building. In a farm that I just found outside of Crawford County, guy had a boat that was on Lake Erie, a fishing boat, an old wooden one. Had it in the back field. The coyotes made a den in there. It does not have to be a hole in the ground. All she got to do is feel comfortable. Most of you folks know where the city of Erie is at, am I right? Some 15 years ago, the city of Erie decided that it rained and snowed so much that the surface sewer lines wasn't taking the water back to Lake Erie quick enough. So they dug up State Street, took those lines out, and were getting ready to put 4-foot lines in there to take the water back to the lake. When they uncovered 10th and State Street, which is almost dead center in the business district, they uncovered a coyote den. Nobody knew a coyote lived in town. Inside that coyote den, they recovered 51 dog collars. That cleared up a whole bunch of police report on missing pets, you know? And they have no idea how many cats this thing had eaten because most cats running free don't have collars on them. Nobody knew that coyote lived there. A week after they hardtopped that particular intersection, Channel 24 News out of Erie videotaped that coyote running up and down State Street between 3 and 4 o'clock each morning for a solid week. 2 of those mornings, he had something in his mouth. One was a puppy, one was a cat. They do not need woods to live. That's the hardest thing for me to get across to hunters. All they got to do is feel comfortable, folks, where they have nobody bothering them, including us. Then we get to the middle of the summer, August, that's when you folks become a major event in a coyote's life. Some of you groundhog hunters are out there doing your hunting, and these young coyotes are learning their skills. They're out in a freshly mowed field, jumping up and down on grass, trying to get moles and mice to move. They're learning their skills of survival. They're learning how to hunt. And you get an opportunity to get one. Then comes September, that's when we really become a major event. In nature, from the 1st of September through the mid-October period, this family unit of coyotes disperse. With us being in the woods looking for a place to deer hunt, turkey hunt, you know, kill a tree of choice you want for this coming fall, we're out there leaving human scent, and that helps break up the family. If you're a female in this litter, your road to a new home may only be anywhere from 5 to 20 miles from where you were originally born. Whereas a male in this litter may have to travel anywhere from 10 to 100 miles to relocate and set up a new territory. That's why all of a sudden this time of the year, there's coyotes in an area you never saw before. Why? It's just a natural movement thing. Nature's way of stopping inbreeding, I guess. Then we get to November. That's when you folks are out there doing your hunting. And a coyote makes a mistake. He shows up at the right place at the right time, and you get to take a coyote home. That's how most coyotes are harvested, by accident. They show up that way. And then we're back to the cold months. So there's no secret about this coyote's life. He eats, he sleeps, he has sex once a year like any other married man, back to eating and sleeping. It is basic. There are no hidden chapters in this guy's life. So how do we get this animal? How do we hunt him? This is the easy part. You use his defenses. His ears. It's easy to fool his ears. Remember when I said his appetite is very good? The only way I can describe his appetite is Thanksgiving. Families get together for a big turkey meal, am I right? Everybody stuffs themselves. The adults go in the front room, sit down in a chair, either fall asleep or watch TV. 10 minutes later, young kids are in the refrigerator. Mom, is there something to snack on? That kind of hungry. That's the only way I can describe it. So all we got to do is convince his ears that there's a food source out there. His stomach will make him go look for it. What's a food source? What?
It's something he can hunt.
Something he can hunt. That's easy enough. How about anything he can catch? That easy enough? Anything that sounds like it's in distress. Rabbits, deer, turkeys, neighbor's cat. Don't use it for bait. Just because I said it, don't use it. Anything that sounds... Coyotes are opportunists. Opportunist is you go home, you find 12 dozen warm cookies on the counter and nobody home. Isn't that an opportunity? By the grin on his face, he's already eaten 3 dozen. That's an opportunity, isn't it? When a coyote hears something in distress, he's already thinking 2 meals. One is very obvious, whatever's making the sound of distress. The second meal is what's causing that sound to be made. If it's a red fox, a gray fox, raccoon, a cat, a bird of prey, if he can catch it, that's a second meal. He's thinking smorgasbord, folks. So that's how we get around that. All we got to do is sound like something in a meal. Now, most of you people like to use electronic callers. Why? Because they're convenient and it's easy. All you do is you turn a button and you're instantly hunting. You know what that is? What is that?
Turkey.
What?
No.
Can't be. No feathers. I bet it's a lamb. Electronics are great, but electronics have a problem. You said you're married, young man, am I right? Did your wife ever go, I want to go to dinner now? I want to go to dinner now?
Yeah.
I want to go to dinner now? You're not allowed to hit them. That's against the law. That's illegal. Annoying, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Better be careful what you say. She's within arm reach. But it's annoying. Where electronics have been used a lot for foxes, raccoons, coyotes, crows, the coyotes learn to sit down and listen. If it's boring, he's learned to leave. I know that because I hunt the snow belt. And during the winter, I've had coyotes come in and sit down and then leave. And I found in the snow where they come in, they could not have seen us or smelled us from where they were. When they come in, they trotted in. They were on their way in. When they sit down, you can see where their tails sit in the snow and their front feet just pawed the ground constantly. And when they decided to leave, they were taking 8 to 12-foot leaps getting out of there. And that's the only scenario I can come up with, is they found out that's boring. So I learned to use hand calls. Hand calls are easy. They're not battery operated. You don't have to worry about a battery. If the battery dies, don't worry about the call. You understand that joke? And they're easy. The other thing is, there's no death 101. There's no proper or improper sound that you can make to make the sound of an animal in distress. All you got to do is make it sound like it's injured. Well, that's easy enough. Just put some motion to it. Now this is a fawn in distress call. It's a deer call. Now how many of you have one? How many of you know how to use it? Okay, I'm going to give you a real quick lesson. When a fawn gets away from its mother, it's like a little child. It's just going to be a contact call, very soft. That's it. Has nothing to do with any of the features of dominance, sexual, or territory. It is a contact call. When a fawn gets away from his mom for 10 or 15 minutes, by sight, sound, smell, can't locate her, now there's urgency to it. Now it sounds like a human baby crying, but it's still a relatively soft call. And if you've been archery hunting, you've heard that sound. But if that same fawn has a coyote hanging off its tail, or it's caught in a barbed wire fence, now there's all kind of urgency coming out of that little deer's throat. To a doe, it brings out the maternal instinct to run in and save the fawn. To a coyote, it's a free, easy meal. Just put the urgency in there. So you made your deer call a predator call. But there's a lot of other things you can get out of it. Remember I said the food sources? Do you ever hear a raccoon chatter? Okay. A couple of you hunters already told me you've heard this in the woods. If you haven't been chattered by a squirrel, you haven't been in the right spot. My favorite call, and I don't know if I can do it, my sinuses are running, is if you can do a tomcat. You can hit that and do it right, coyotes are going to be in your lap. They like those things. But that's a predator call. And it's a very simple call, probably around $9. Most of us can afford that. But I have a high-pitch call and a low-pitch call. This is the high pitch. To our ears, it doesn't sound like it goes very far, but in reality, it goes a long ways. But if the owls, hawks, and crows are not flying at you, you're making the wrong sound for the area. And that's when I change up and I go to a raspy call. Sounds louder to our ears, but in reality, does not go out as far. With those two calls, you can hunt anywhere in Canada, continental United States, or Central America and expect to have a coyote, wolf, fox, or any other animal that's a predator come after you. And they're inexpensive. So that's not hard to get his ears convinced, is it? That was the easy part. That was actually the fun part. You told me you're a turkey hunter. Have to wear camo, right? Do you ever use a decoy? Something similar to this? Do you know why you use a decoy? Take their eyes off of you. Do you know why he uses a decoy, young man? So at the end of the day, he can walk out of the woods and go, yep, I got me one. And besides, if you take it home, throw it in the microwave, you can have a turkey melt. Anytime you are out making the sound of a prey animal to a coyote, squirrels, deer, turkey, waterfowl, you are being stalked by this creature. That will end when he either sees you, smells you, or your gun goes off. It took 3 shots from a 20 gauge to stop this coyote that I showed you, the first one. Anytime you're out there, you're being stalked. Keep that in mind. Now this is a great decoy and it works very well, but it has a problem. If it's not turkey season and you have a call capable of making a turkey sound, you're going to get one of those guys with that shoulder patch and talk to you in a very negative way. It's a great decoy, but it's going to get you in trouble. So I tell people not to use it. This was invented by a friend of mine over in Ohio. This is where I got my nickname, Rabbit on a Stick. You put the battery in, turn it on, and it dances for you. Now the motion decoy is very good, and it does work. The problem with it is birds of prey have a tendency to come in on it. And I can tell you, when it's below zero and a red-tailed hawk decides to power dive one of these things, you have never heard anything so ridiculous as talons hitting that hard plastic ball. I can't describe the sound, but I can tell you he looked like a drunk laying in the snow, folks. His little feet are gone, his wings are gone, he's not going anywhere. It's just too funny. Of course, we did what you're doing right now. We laughed. We never did get a coyote that morning. Took the bird about a half hour to get righted and get back in the tree. The other thing is, this decoy costs somewhere around $50. I'm a tightwad. I don't like to spend money. So that's out of my league, folks. Now, I don't work for this company. If I did, I'd have one that wasn't all tore apart. This is probably one of the best coyote decoys I've ever found. This is the downfall of my marriage. It is. It took me 8 weeks to convince my ex-wife this would make a great centerpiece at Christmas time. After she got it for me, it took me 2 more weeks to convince her because of its wild heritage, it needs to take a walk in the woods. And after a coyote did that to him, she wouldn't buy me another one. So that started the arguments, folks. This is a great decoy, and it works very well. But again, we're talking somewhere around $50 to $60. So again, that's out of my league. So I had to come up with something a little more practical, something within my range of affordability. Are you laughing at my decoy, ma'am? You are too. This is a great decoy. It wasn't at first, it had a carrot right there. See the orange? That scared the daylights out of everything. But this is a great decoy. I know these are great decoys because I have now lost 38 of these to owls, hawks, coyotes, and the neighbor's dog. Neighbor's dog yipped once and gave it back. Has never been in the yard since. This is a great decoy. The problem with it is, can you see that decoy, young man? That's the problem. Whether you're turkey hunting or you're predator hunting, you put the decoys where you can see it, not where the animal or bird that needs to see it. If you ever walked into an open field, like the parking lot out here that I'm hunting coyotes in, you're going to take your hat off, scratch your head, because you're going to find that rabbit sitting about that high. Have you ever seen a rabbit sitting that high, young man? You never got that drunk, did you? Understand, every piece of ground has a natural roll to it, grass or brush. This thing's keen ear sight has already picked up the sound. Now he's expecting his eyes to see it. If it's obvious, if it's up here where he can see it, he has a tendency to run straight at it. And I can tell when they leap and you pull the trigger, they slide sideways. That's better than hollering skeet. And if you don't have it where they can see it, they have a tendency to go to the downwind side. By keeping your decoy up, you're going to stop that. But this is a great decoy, and it does work. Decoys will save you even for some of the mistakes you make when you're out there. But put a decoy where it can be seen. Put it up. So now we're past his eyesight. Okay? His nose. He can smell a drop of blood 7.5 miles away. Young lady, you take care of yourself? Neat, clean, attractive, all that good stuff?
She doesn't like
you know what a skunk smells like? Aren't you glad this isn't you I'm picking on? Hard in the nose, makes the eyes water. To all animals that live by their nose, including your pet, you have the same smell as that skunk does to you. You know what your problem is? You stink. I got away with that, didn't I? But of course, so do I. Anybody that is alive and putting out the human scent, we're the top of the predator line, folks. We're the foulest smell out there. All animals, including some of your pets, fear you because of that. That's the reason he's not harvested. How many archers do I have? How come you're not out in the field? First day. You ever use cover scents? Scent eliminators? You know what they are? I'm going to give you a real quick lesson. It won't cost you a cent. They're natural lanolin derived from plants. Natural lanolin coats your skin, slows down the rate of bacteria growth, which we call human scent. Therefore, you're still giving it off, but at such a low level, animals can't determine how close or how far away you really are. Therefore, they go about their natural business. That make it easy? So now we got through all his defenses, through what he does during the course of the year. How do we hunt them? How many of you know where there's coyotes, you went out and tried, and absolutely nothing happened? There's some honest people in here, thank you. Happened to me for a year and a half, folks. I'm honest about it. It took me a year and a half to get smart. I finally, remember I told you I was a tightwad? I get on the phone, called an 800 number, Johnny Stewart Game Calls. I talked to a gentleman down in Texas. He said, well, the only organization that has ever compiled literature on the eastern coyote is the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. Let me send you some information and see if it helps you. Well, anybody's going to help me. I'm willing to listen. I was all pepped up. I was all ready for this until I got the box. It was 2 feet by 2 feet by 18 inches deep. You know how many bathroom trips it took to read all that stuff? 2 things I learned. One, I don't like to read that much. But the main thing I learned from that was this. Coyotes spend basically the main part of the day laying on their stomach. Within 1 hour of dark, they get up on all 4 feet. Within a half hour of that, they eat the largest meal of the day. That means he's sleeping in the kitchen. Well, that's when things started changing around. Somebody sent me one of these calls, and you turkey hunters know this. You get a brand new call, you try it out, it doesn't sound like it's supposed to, does it? There's not a coyote in this world is going to come to that. But one evening my wife was having a discussion, and you know, if you make a woman mad, their veins in their neck show, their ears turn red, and I'm sure if you could put an egg on their forehead, it would, you could cook it. Is that true?
Yes.
Well, anyhow, she was having a discussion, I was listening, and my last statement was, excuse me, were you talking to me? So I figured at that point it was safer to walk out in the back deck. I lived across from the Erie Wildlife Refuge outside of Cambridge Springs. Some 3,888 acres of some of the nastiest terrain. And I'm playing with this call. And all of a sudden I hit a set of notes that sounded somewhat like a coyote. I go, boy, that's kind of cool. And about that time, my ears picked up something across the road inside the refuge. Just like any good turkey hunter, you think you hear one, what do? You do it again, make sure. So I howled again. And the next half hour of pointing at each individual coyote that was answering me, and there were pockets where there were more than one coyote, I didn't count them, I counted 18 coyotes. Then all of a sudden the light bulb went off. The time of day was just before dusk. Prime time. I got to him before he got out of his bedroom. Because once they eat that large meal of the day, through tracking collars in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Michigan, it is a proven fact this coyote travels anywhere from 10 to 39 miles per night. That's why you're finding tracks and you can't find a coyote. So anyhow, now I had a way of having the coyotes tell me exactly where they live. That was a real downfall in my marriage. Because I'd take my ex-wife to that great restaurant, you know, the Arch's place, the laxative restaurant. She knew after 18 years of marriage, it wasn't a normal date because all my calls went with me. The whole time she's eating, I'm going, will you hurry up? Come on, bring it with you. You know, you wouldn't do that, would you? Maybe. Hey, you're going to be in my condition. But anyhow, we'd take off. We'd go out a back road somewhere, pull off the side of the road. I'd get 20 to 30 yards away from the car, and I'd sound off. All I wanted at that point is that coyote to talk to me. Whether he howled back, he yipped back, or he barked. That's all I want to know is he's there. And that's when this became the most valuable thing I owned. Why? Because I put the name of the road down that I was on. And then the largest landmark I could identify with. Farmer John's silo, a tree abutment, you know, a barn, a silo, something that I could, and then approximate distance from where that was to where I was at. The next thing you need to put in here, which side of the road was he on? Keep it simple, north, south, east, west. The part you'll never get right, because I still don't get it right after 50 years of playing with turkeys, just how far away that bird really is. Oh yeah, he's in there about 150 yards. You go in there 60 yards, all of a sudden, yep, 60 yards and still flying. Am I right? Every woodlot has its own sound characteristic, so it's a guesstimate of how far away that animal was. And the last thing you put in here is as important as you heard the coyote. What wind direction is necessary for you to get in and hunt or photograph that particular animal. Keep it simple again. Coyote's on the west side of the road. You need a northwest, west, or southwest wind to get in there and efficiently hunt that animal. So that makes it easy. All you need to know on any given day is how much time before dark it is and which way the wind's blowing. And then how much time you have to get to that particular spot. Does that make sense? Now, coyotes will almost always try to go to the downwind side. You can block that, very simple. If all these chairs are the woodlot where I think the coyote's at, everything on this side is an open field, coyote's going to come to a point, if he does not see that decoy or does not react to it, he's going to circle out around and try to get behind it. But because of an open field, as he's being called, because he don't know if it's another coyote that is doing the killing, he'll come to that point and he'll run the inside of the tree line to get as close as he can to see what's there. And if you sit on the inside of the tree line and call, you have a very good chance of shooting that coyote. So that's how one person controls a small woodlot. But you know and I know there's some woodlots that are way too big for that. Am I right? Can I borrow you two young men? Would you come up here? Now I'm going to show you the wrong way to do this. You stand right here. You face that way. Come on over here. Now you face this way. Now, these two gentlemen are hunting. This is how most of you folks do it. They're somewhere between 60 and 100 yards apart. This gentleman's doing the calling. All of a sudden, he sees a coyote on the backside of this guy. How are you going to tell him there's a coyote coming? You can't. You can't holler at him, can you? Coyote's going to run. Can't wave at him, coyote's going to run. This is a bad setup because of a communication problem. The other thing is, now you have two scent pools of human scent going to the downwind side. Coyotes have more of a chance of picking you up. Does that make sense? Now the proper way, come here young man. Come here, come here. Now, you turn this way, put your back right up against them. No trees, no rocks, no brush. You sit down back to back. Now you have 360 degrees of vision and shooting capability. If this gentleman sees a coyote, all he got to do is take his elbow, tap this young man. That lets this hunter know that this hunter has seen something on this side of him, expect to hear a gunshot. Does that make sense? That's how you control something that's way too big. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a seat. That's simple, is it not? Understand, this eastern coyote can produce 6 to 10 pups. It will take approximately 3 years to completely devastate a deer herd in an area. If you don't believe me, go over to the Allegheny National Forest. Go over there in late January when there's snow on the ground. You walk around, tell me how many deer tracks you find as compared to coyotes. Do you believe that a black bear is part of the food chain to a coyote? Now the big bear, the adult, not so much. But a sow with cubs, they'll surround her. And they'll come in, they'll keep nipping at her till one of the other coyotes get a chance to get to that cub. They will come in, bite the cub, break her neck. They'll run back and sit down till mom decides that the cub is dead and she'll walk away. We are the only natural predator other than disease this particular animal has here in the East. Without you getting involved and help keeping the numbers down and keeping them spread out to where they do not do so much damage to one area, what you see today your grandchildren may never see. As of July of this year, I have killed 1,200 coyotes in Pennsylvania, all by calling. If I can do it, you folks can do it. The problem is there's no shortcuts. You do your homework, you do your scouting, you get out there. Please don't walk on somebody else's property without knocking on the door. Don't become a slob hunter. I can guarantee you have a benefit that other hunters don't. You can walk up, knock on the door and say, "Hi, my name's Tom Bechdel. I know you own this property. May I come in and coyote hunt?" And then the majority of times they're going to say, "Well, I really don't think there's any here." Well, if you allow me in and I kill one, I'll bring it back and show it to you. I guarantee if you bring a coyote back and you prove to that landowner they're on his property, you're hunting deer and turkeys on his ground too. You have a method of getting into other ground. Any questions to this point? I have a booth back here. I have a DVD on this subject. My books, for some reason, the publisher didn't send me. I can't help you with that right now. But I do take people out and I do trainings. If you're interested, please stop over. But I will leave you with one remark that I totally believe, and I've lived this. If you like good sports, be one. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.